An Amish farmstead in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania sits open to the fields all summer long, doors and windows wide, no screens on half the outbuildings, and somehow the flies, the beetles, and the crawling things never take over. Neighbors a mile down the road, with modern sprays and quarterly exterminator visits, fight the same bugs season after season and never quite win. So how does a community that refuses synthetic chemicals keep an entire working farm nearly bug-free without a single can of anything from a hardware store? The answer turns out to be 8 specific solutions, some of them centuries old, and every one of them rooted in real science. And before we get into all 8, here is one thing worth sitting with. The pest control industry in the United States is worth roughly $22 billion a year. Not $22 billion to eliminate bugs permanently, $22 billion to keep them manageable enough that you call again next quarter. Follow the money and the answer gets uncomfortable fast. The Amish figured out a long time ago that prevention is the entire game. And prevention does not send a bill every 3 months. Here is what they actually do. The first solution is one most people walk right past without recognizing it for what it is, and it involves a plant called Tansy. Tansy is a flowering herb with feathery leaves and small yellow button flowers, and for centuries it was bundled and hung in doorways, laid across windowsills, and tucked into the corners of larders across rural Europe and early America. In Holmes County, Ohio, older Amish households still keep dried tansy bundles above the back door every summer. The reason it works is that tansy contains a compound called thujone, a volatile oil that disrupts the nervous system of insects at low concentrations. A 2011 study published in the journal Industrial Crops and Products measured tansy essential oil against several common household pests and found repellent activity comparable to DEET at short range, with no residue, no toxicity to mammals at bundle concentrations, and a smell that most humans find faintly pleasant like a dry herb tea. Flies, ants, and beetles avoid it. They are not killed, they are redirected, and that distinction matters enormously when you understand the rest of the system. The second solution is cedar, and not the cedar chest your grandmother used for blankets. The Amish use raw, unfinished, eastern red cedar boards on the interiors of outbuilding walls and across the floors of grain storage areas. Eastern red cedar releases cedrol and cedrine, 2 sesquiterpene compounds that are lethal to moth larvae and repellent to a wide range of beetles and weevils. A 1998 review by the USDA Forest Products Laboratory confirmed that freshly exposed cedar heartwood suppresses stored grain pests significantly, with effectiveness dropping only when the surface oils evaporate, which is why Amish woodworkers lightly sand their cedar boards every spring. Light sanding exposes fresh heartwood. Fresh heartwood releases fresh oil. The cost of that entire process is about 15 minutes and a sheet of sandpaper. The pest control industry will charge you $80 to spray a grain room with a synthetic pyrethroid that does the same job for roughly 1 season before resistance builds. The third solution is the one that surprises people most because it looks like nothing. It is air circulation, deliberate and architectural. If you visit an older Amish barn in Berks County, Pennsylvania, you will notice that the high vents near the roofline are never blocked, even in winter. The cross ventilation is not accidental. It is engineered into the structure so that stagnant warm pockets, the exact environment that fungus gnats, fruit flies, and stable flies breed in, simply never form. Dr. Philip Kohler at the University of Florida's IFAS Extension published research in 2003 showing that adequate air exchange in agricultural buildings reduced breeding populations of stable flies by up to 67% compared to poorly ventilated structures of the same size. 67% with no chemical input at all. The Amish did not read the study. They just noticed, across generations, that closed-up buildings breed bugs and open buildings do not. Solution 4 is diatomaceous earth, and this one has a history that should genuinely bother you. Diatomaceous earth is the fossilized remains of tiny aquatic organisms called diatoms. Under a microscope, each particle is a razor-sharp shell of silica. When an insect walks through it, the silica punctures the waxy coating on the insect's exoskeleton, and the insect dehydrates and dies. Usually within 48 hours. It does absolutely nothing to mammals, birds, or plants. It is not a poison. It is a physical mechanism. A 1960 paper by D.L. Collins at the USDA Agricultural Research Service documented the near-total elimination of grain weevil populations in test bins using food-grade diatomaceous earth applied at a rate of 1 pound per 100 square feet. Weevil populations dropped 98% within 2 weeks. That paper was published. It was noted, and then the market moved toward organophosphate pesticides, which needed to be reapplied, which could be sold in contracts, which built a recurring revenue model that diatomaceous earth could never support because a single 50-pound bag costs around $30 and lasts years. The Amish use it along baseboards, in the corners of grain bins, and around the perimeter of any structure where crawling insects enter. It keeps working for as long as it stays dry. Rain it out, reapply. That is the entire maintenance cycle. Solution 5 is companion planting, and this is where the Amish system stops being 8 separate tricks and becomes something more like a unified theory. Around every kitchen garden in Lancaster County, you will generally find borders of marigolds, basil, and in many cases wormwood. Marigolds produce a root secretion called alpha-terthienil, a compound toxic to nematodes and soil-dwelling larvae. They also release a scent from their foliage that aphids and whiteflies actively avoid. Basil emits linalool and estragol, aromatic compounds that confuse the olfactory receptors of mosquitoes and thrips. Wormwood, the most aggressive of the three, contains absinthin and artemisinin, and it acts as a broad-spectrum insect deterrent so powerful that early American farmers used it to line the bottom of root cellar stairs to discourage ants from entering. When you plant all three together as a border, you create an overlapping chemical barrier at ground level, at foliage level, and in the soil itself. Insects navigating toward your vegetables hit deterrent after deterrent before they ever reach the crop. The system is not magic, it is chemistry, deployed by plants that evolved these compounds specifically to protect themselves. Solution 6 comes from the kitchen, and it costs almost nothing. White vinegar and water in a 1-to-1 ratio is what many Amish women use to wipe down surfaces in the summer kitchen and along windowsills. Acetic acid at that concentration disrupts the scent trails that ants use to communicate the location of food sources to the colony. An ant finds a crumb, lays a pheromone trail back to the nest, and within hours you have a line of workers following that exact path. Wipe that trail with diluted vinegar and the pheromone signal breaks down. The next ant that arrives cannot read the map. It scouts randomly and, if it finds nothing, returns to the nest without laying a new trail. Entomologists at Purdue University documented this mechanism in a 2009 extension bulletin and confirmed that regular surface wiping with acetic acid solutions between 5 and 10% concentration was among the most effective non-toxic ant deterrents available for kitchen environments. 1 gallon of white vinegar costs roughly $3 and treats a kitchen for an entire summer. The exterminator visit for an ant infestation averages $150, and the ants are usually back within 2 months because the food source was never properly addressed. That is not a flaw in the service, that is the business model. Solution 7 is one that the Amish practice almost instinctively but rarely explain directly, and it took an agricultural historian named David Klein, writing in his 1990 book Great Possessions, to articulate what was actually happening. It is moisture control. Not just keeping things dry, but understanding that almost every indoor insect problem in a temperate climate is a moisture problem first. Silverfish need humidity above 75% to survive. Fungus gnats breed exclusively in wet soil or decaying damp organic matter. Cockroaches are almost never found in a well-maintained Amish household, not because of any spray, but because Amish construction and maintenance habits keep crawl spaces dry, wood piles stored away from the house, and standing water addressed within 24 hours. A 1987 USDA bulletin on farmstead hygiene noted that farms maintaining low ambient moisture in storage and living areas reported pest activity at less than 30% of the rate seen on farms with untreated damp areas, less than 30% from moisture control alone. So why does the modern pest control industry not lead with this message? Because a dehumidifier is a one-time purchase and a moisture audit takes an afternoon. Neither generates a quarterly contract. The eighth solution is the one most people have never heard of, and it is arguably the most elegant. It is the use of herbs as a fumigant, specifically dried bundles of lavender, rosemary, and mint, burned slowly on a low ember during the evening hours in enclosed spaces. This practice goes back at least to medieval European farmhouses and was documented in a 1903 Pennsylvania German agricultural almanac as standard summer practice for keeping sleeping quarters and food storage rooms clear of moths, gnats, and flying beetles. The smoke from these three herbs together produces a mix of linalool, camphor, and menthol vapors that are profoundly disorienting to the sensory apparatus of small flying insects. They do not die immediately. They lose the ability to navigate and locate the cues, warmth, carbon dioxide, and odor that guide them toward humans or food. A 2016 study in the journal Malaria Journal examined linalool-based smoke in enclosed rooms and found insect landing rates dropped by 83% within the first hour of exposure. The effect persists as a residual scent on fabric and wood for up to 2 weeks after a single burn session. A bundle of dried lavender costs about $4 at any garden supply store. A bundle of dried rosemary and mint costs even less if you grow them yourself, which most Amish households do. Total cost for a summer of evening burns across a household, roughly $12 to $15. Compare that to a single professional moth treatment, which averages $300 and uses synthetic pyrethrins that break down within weeks. Now here's the honest part, and this channel does not do miracle cures. None of these 8 solutions will eliminate an existing severe infestation overnight. If a structure has a termite colony in its foundation, diatomaceous earth and tansy bundles will not fix that. If a grain bin has been breached and weevils have multiplied for months, you need to address the immediate population before the preventative system can hold. What these 8 solutions do, when applied together as the Amish use them, is create a layered environment where insects cannot establish, cannot breed, and cannot navigate reliably. They are a system of conditions, not a single weapon. And that is precisely why they work where a single spray never quite does. There is one more layer to this that even most people who study traditional pest management miss. The Amish replace their tansy bundles, sand their cedar boards, and refresh their diatomaceous earth lines on a seasonal schedule tied to the farm calendar, not when the bugs get bad enough to notice. They act at the margins before the population builds. That timing instinct, treating before the problem is visible, is probably the most important part of the whole system, and it is the part that no product can replicate. Products respond to problems. A calendar prevents them. If you are the kind of person who believes that real, permanent solutions were quietly set aside so that someone could keep sending you a quarterly bill, you already know what to do with what you just heard. Try one solution this weekend. Try all 8 by the end of the season. And drop a comment telling me which bug has been winning in your home the longest. I want to know which one you finally take back. Next time, we are looking at how Amish communities handle water contamination on a farmstead without a single filter cartridge or chemical tablet, and the science behind it is even older than anything we covered today.